The stars burned cold and distant as the battle raged across the void. Fleet Admiral Jack stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Valiant, watching his tactical display with calm eyes. Around him, officers shouted orders and damage reports, but Jack remained still like a rock in a storm. The swarm had come to Arcturus colony with 300 ships. They were insect-like creatures, cruel and hungry, and they wanted to devour the 2 million humans living on the planet below. Jack had only 60 ships to stop them. "Admiral, they're breaking through the left flank," his aide reported. Lieutenant was young but brilliant, and fear touched her voice for the first time. Jack studied the display for 3 seconds, then he smiled. "Signal the Resolute and the Thunder, tell Captain to execute Pattern 7, and tell Admiral Park to bring his squadron around from the asteroid field. Now." The orders went out. Ships moved. The thinking they had found weakness pushed harder into the left flank. They did not see Park's hidden squadron until it was too late. The trap closed like a fist. Ships exploded by the dozens. Their formation broke apart, and when formation broke, the swarm mind became confused. Jack pressed the attack without mercy. 6 hours later it was over, 240 ships destroyed. Humanity lost only 12. Arcturus colony was saved. On the bridge, exhausted officers cheered. Allowed herself a small smile. Captain's voice came through the communication system, tired but proud. "Hell of a fight, Admiral." Jack nodded slowly. He did not celebrate. He was thinking about the 18,000 sailors who would not go home to their families. Victory always costs something. Park appeared his handsome face arranged in a perfect smile. "Congratulations, Jack. Another impossible victory. The Coalition owes you everything." "The Coalition owes our people," Jack replied. "Make sure the rescue teams reach the damaged ships first. Survivors before salvage." "Of course," Park said smoothly, but something flickered behind his eyes. Something Jack did not notice because he was already moving on to the next problem. That was his mistake. 3 weeks later, Jack stood in the Grand Hall on Earth, surrounded by thousands of cheering citizens. The Coalition Council had organized a ceremony to honor the heroes of Arcturus. Jack wore his dress uniform, medals heavy on his chest, and wished he was anywhere else. He never liked ceremonies. He liked solving problems. He liked protecting people. Standing on stages while politicians made speeches felt like a waste of time. Director of Coalition Intelligence approached him before the ceremony began. He was a thin man with cold eyes and a politician's smile. "Admiral, the hero of the hour." "Director," Jack replied politely, "I hope your intelligence teams are tracking the remaining forces. They'll regroup eventually." "Always working," said. "That's what I admire about you, Jack. You never stop, you never rest, you never—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You never consider what others might want." Before Jack could ask what he meant, the ceremony began. The speeches were long and boring. Jack stood at attention, thinking about fleet deployments and supply lines. He barely heard his own name being called until gently touched his arm. He stepped forward to accept another medal. The crowd roared with approval, and then everything changed. The doors of the Grand Hall burst open. Coalition security forces poured in, weapons raised. The crowd screamed and scattered. Jack stood frozen, not understanding what was happening. "Fleet Admiral Jack," a security captain announced, his voice echoing through the sudden silence. "You are under arrest for treason against the Terran Coalition." Jack stared at him. "What?" "You are charged with unauthorized contact with hostile alien species, conspiracy to overthrow the Coalition government, and selling military secrets to enemies of humanity." "This is insane," Jack said. "I just saved 2 million people. I've given 30 years to the Coalition." "Take him," the captain ordered. Soldiers moved forward. Jack could have fought. He had killed men with his bare hands in wars across a dozen worlds. but fighting coalition soldiers would only make him look guilty, so he stood still as they put restraints on his wrists. Across the hall he saw Park watching. The man's face showed perfect shock and concern, but his eyes were satisfied, and standing beside him, Director allowed himself a tiny smile. In that moment Jack understood. He had been betrayed. The trial was not a trial. It was a performance. The Coalition Council presented evidence that Jack knew was false. Communications he never sent. Financial records he never created. Witnesses he had never met that he had sold secrets to the. "This is fabricated," Jack said calmly. "Every piece of this evidence is a lie." "The evidence speaks for itself," the council chairman replied. Jack looked at Park, who sat in the admiral's chair that had been Jack's just days before. "You know me. We fought together for 15 years. Tell them the truth." Park shook his head sadly. "I wish I could, old friend, but the evidence is overwhelming. I defended you as long as I could, but the truth—" He spread his hands in a gesture of helpless regret. Lieutenant tried to speak in Jack's defense. She was immediately arrested for obstruction of justice and dragged from the chamber. Captain was entry to the proceedings entirely. The verdict came quickly, guilty on all charges. "Jack," the chairman announced, "you are stripped of all rank and honors. You are sentenced to life imprisonment on Tartarus 9. May God have mercy on your soul, because the coalition will not." Guards dragged Jack from the chamber. As he passed Park, the new fleet admiral leaned close. "Nothing personal, Jack," he whispered. "You were just in my way. You should have retired when you had the chance." Jack said nothing. There was nothing to say. They put him on a prison transport with 30 other condemned men. The ship was cold and dark, and it smelled like despair. Jack sat in his cell, hands still bound, and watched through a small window as Earth grew smaller and smaller. The planet he had spent his life protecting. The people he had sacrificed everything for. They had thrown him away like garbage. An old prisoner in the next cell laughed bitterly. "First time seeing it from this side, soldier." "Yes," Jack replied quietly. "It gets worse," the old man promised. "Tartarus 9 is hell frozen over. Nobody survives more than a few years." Jack turned from the window. His face was calm. His eyes were dry, but deep inside something cold and patient had awakened. Not anger. Anger burned hot and fast and left nothing but ashes. This was different. This was purpose. Park thought he had won. Director thought Jack was finished. They thought they had buried him so deep that he would never climb out. They were wrong. Jack had survived wars that killed millions. He had faced monsters from the darkness between stars. He had walked through fire and come out stronger. A frozen prison moon. That was just another battlefield. And Jack had never lost a battle that truly mattered. The transport ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying him toward Tartarus 9. Jack closed his eyes and began to plan. Tartarus 9 was everything the old prisoner had promised and worse. The moon orbited a massive gas giant that filled half the sky with swirling storms of orange and red. The surface was covered in ice and rock, and the wind never stopped screaming. Temperatures dropped to -80 degrees at night. Nothing lived here except the prisoners, and many of them did not live for long. The prison complex was built half underground, carved into the frozen rock. 3,000 of humanity's worst criminals lived here, along with those who had simply made powerful enemies. There were no guards inside the prison blocks. The warden and his security teams controlled the food, the heat, and the airlocks. That was enough. The prisoners were left to govern themselves, which meant the strongest and most violent ruled. Jack arrived with 29 other new prisoners. By the end of the first day, only 22 remained. The gangs took the weak ones to use or sell or simply kill for entertainment. Jack watched and learned. He mapped the power structures, identified the leaders, noted the escape routes that did not exist. He kept quiet and stayed in the shadows. He was not ready to act yet. On his third night, they came for him. 5 men surrounded his sleeping area. Their leader was a massive creature named who ran the Eastern Bloc. "You're the famous admiral," said, grinning with broken teeth. "Coalition's golden boy. You're going to make me a lot of money." "I have no money," Jack replied calmly. "You don't need money. You just need to stay alive while people bid on your body parts. A traitor admiral. People will pay good credits for pieces of you." The 5 men moved closer. Jack remained still. "Nothing to say," laughed. "Where's all that military genius now?" Jack moved. The first man went down with a crushed throat. The second took a knee strike to the groin and an elbow to the skull. The third managed to draw a makeshift knife before Jack broke his arm in 3 places. The fourth tried to run. Jack caught him in 2 steps and put him to sleep with a chokehold. Stood alone, his grin gone, his confidence shattered. He was bigger and younger than Jack. But Jack had killed his first enemy in hand-to-hand combat before this man was born. "You wanted the Admiral," Jack said quietly. "You found him." Attacked with a roar, Jack caught his arm and used the man's own weight to flip him into the wall, slumped to the ground, groaning. Jack knelt beside him, spread the word. "Jack is not for sale. Anyone who comes for me will regret it. Anyone who leaves me alone has nothing to fear. Do you understand?" Nodded weakly. Jack walked back to his sleeping area and closed his eyes. He did not sleep well that night. He had not slept well in weeks, but at least now the other predators would think twice. Word spread quickly in the prison. Within a week, 2 more gangs tested Jack. Both attempts failed badly. After that, people began to avoid him with respect instead of predatory interest. That was when the old man found him. "You fight like a demon," said a voice from the shadows. "But demons burn out eventually. You need friends." Jack turned to see an elderly Korean man with white hair and kind eyes. He was thin and fragile-looking, but he moved through the dangerous prison like a ghost, untouched and unafraid. "Who are you?" Jack asked. "My name is, 30 years ago I was the Coalition's leading weapons scientist. They wanted me to build planet killers. I refused, so they put me here." The old man smiled sadly. "We have something in common, Admiral. We both believed in the Coalition. We were both wrong." Jack studied him carefully. "What do you want?" "To help you, and perhaps eventually for you to help me." Sat down slowly, his old bones creaking. "I know who you are. I know what you did at Arcturus. I know you're innocent. And I know something that might interest you." "What?" "This moon holds secrets, Admiral. The Coalition built this prison here for a reason. Deep beneath the ice there are ruins, alien ruins, older than humanity, older than any species we've ever encountered." Jack's eyes narrowed. "How do you know this?" "Because I've spent 20 years digging. I've seen things down there that change everything we think we know about the universe. And I believe you're the only person who might be able to use what's hidden below." More prisoners found their way to Jack over the following weeks. Some were drawn by his growing reputation. Others simply needed protection from the gangs. No was one of them. She was a former colonial marine, tall and strong with scars across her face and hatred in her eyes. "They said I murdered my own unit," she told Jack. 23 Marines shot in the back. They called me a monster." "What really happened?" Jack asked. "My commanding officer ordered us to massacre a village of settlers who were protesting Coalition mining operations. I refused. He tried to kill me. The fight got out of control." Her voice was flat and dead. "I survived. He survived and blamed everything on me. Now I'm here." Jack believed her. He had seen too many good soldiers destroyed by bad officers. Was younger than the others, barely 20 years old, with nervous eyes and quick hands. He had been one of the Coalition's best hackers before he made the mistake of exposing corruption in the military supply chain. Powerful people lost money, lost his freedom. "I can access the prison's communication systems," he told Jack. They think I'm harmless. They don't watch me closely. I can send messages out if you have anyone to send them to." Jack thought of arrested for trying to defend him. He thought of Captain entry to his trial. Were they still alive? Did they still believe in him? "Not yet," Jack said, "but soon." Slowly, carefully, Jack built something new in the depths of Tartarus 9. Not a gang, not an army, a family. People who had been thrown away by the coalition. People who had no one else. People who were willing to fight for something better. Warden I am noticed eventually. He was a cruel little man who enjoyed his power over the prisoners. He summoned Jack to his office for questioning. "You're building something," the warden said, tapping his fingers on his desk. "Don't think I haven't noticed. Prisoners gathering around you, whispers in the halls. What are you planning?" "Survival," Jack replied simply, "nothing more." "I don't believe you," the warden leaned forward. "You were a big man once. Admirals, fleets, battles, but that's over. You're nothing now. Just another number in my prison. Remember that." Jack said nothing. He returned to the general population and continued his quiet work. And at night, when the others slept, he went within to the forgotten tunnels beneath the prison. They climbed down through cracks in the ice that no one else had found. They walked through darkness that their flashlights barely penetrated. After weeks of searching, they found it. A chamber of impossible size, carved from the living rock millions of years ago. The walls were covered with symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. In the center stood a gateway, a massive ring of metal and crystal that pulsed with dormant energy. "What is this?" Jack whispered. "I don't know," admitted. "I've studied the symbols for years. I can read fragments. This word here means trial. This one means worthy. And this one," he pointed to a symbol above the gateway, "this one means transformation." Jack walked closer to the gateway. He could feel something, a vibration in his bones, a whisper in his mind. The ancient machine was sleeping, but it recognized him somehow. It was waiting. "Those who endure shall be remade," translated, reading from a long inscription. "That's what it says. I believe this is a test, Jack, a trial. The beings who built this left it for those who came after, those who could prove themselves worthy." Jack reached out and touched the gateway. The symbols flared bright. The machine awakened, and a voice spoke in Jack's mind, ancient and vast and curious. "You have suffered, you have fallen, yet you remain unbroken. Do you wish to be tested?" Jack thought of Park wearing his uniform. He thought of Director's smile. He thought of dragged from the courtroom. He thought of 2 million people on Arcturus who were alive because he had fought for them. "Yes," he said aloud, "test me." The gateway blazed with light and Jack stepped through into the unknown. The light swallowed Jack whole. He felt himself falling through spaces that had no name, through colors that human eyes had never seen. Time lost meaning. He could have fallen for seconds or centuries. Then he landed. Jack found himself standing on a battlefield he knew too well. The red dust of Mars covered everything. Bodies lay scattered across the ground, human and alien alike. The sky was filled with smoke and fire. This was the Battle of Olympus Mons 30 years ago, his first command, his first failure. "No," Jack whispered, "not this." A young soldier stumbled toward him through the chaos. Lieutenant, barely 19 years old. Jack remembered him. Jack had ordered him to hold a position that could not be held, had died following that order along with 200 others. "Admiral," the young soldier said, blood running down his face. "Why did you send us there? You knew we couldn't win. You knew we would die." Jack's throat tightened. "I made a mistake. I was young and stupid, and I thought I knew better than I did. I've carried that mistake every day since." "Is that enough?" asked. "Carrying it, does that bring us back?" "No," Jack admitted. "Nothing brings you back, but I learned. I became better. I saved lives because I remembered the ones I couldn't save, including yours." The young soldier studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly and faded away. The battlefield dissolved into light. Jack fell again. This time he found himself in a medical ward. His daughter lay in the bed before him, small and pale and dying. Leukemia had taken her when she was only 7 years old. Jack had been fighting a war on the other side of the galaxy. He hadn't made it home in time to say goodbye. "Daddy," Little said, her voice weak, "why didn't you come?" Jack felt tears on his face for the first time in years. "I tried, sweetheart, I tried so hard, but I was too far away. The ships couldn't go fast enough." "Was your war more important than me?" "No." Jack knelt beside her bed, taking her small hand in his. "No, baby, nothing was more important than you. I made choices I thought were right. I was protecting people who needed me, but I should have been here. I should have found a way." "Are you sorry?" "Every day, every single day since you left." Little smiled, and for a moment she looked healthy and happy, the way Jack remembered her before the sickness. "I know, Daddy. I always knew. I just wanted to hear you say it." She faded away. Jack remained kneeling, his hand empty, his heart breaking. The medical ward dissolved. He fell through more memories, more failures, more regrets, every life he couldn't save, every friend he had lost, every dark moment when he had wondered if any of it mattered. The ancient machine was showing him the worst parts of himself, forcing him to face truths he had buried deep. And through it all, Jack did not break. He accepted his failures. He acknowledged his mistakes. He felt the weight of every death, every loss, every wrong decision, but he did not shatter. Finally, the light deposited him in a place that was not a memory. He stood in a vast white space that stretched to infinity in all directions. Before him floated a shape of pure light, constantly shifting and changing. "You have endured," a voice spoke in his mind. "Few do. Most are consumed by their regrets. You carry yours without being crushed by them." "Who are you?" Jack asked. "We are the precursors, or rather, what remains of us. We seeded this galaxy with life billions of years ago. We watched our children grow. Humanity is one of our youngest creations, but perhaps our most promising." "What do you want from me?" "We want nothing. We offer everything. You have proven yourself worthy of knowledge, worthy of power. We can remake you, Jack. We can make you faster, stronger, smarter than any human has ever been." Jack hesitated. "What's the cost?" "Ah," the light seemed pleased. "You ask the right question. Others simply accept. The cost is responsibility. If we give you this gift, you must use it to protect humanity, not to rule them, not to control them, to serve them. Can you accept that burden?" "I've spent my whole life serving humanity. They threw me away for it." "And yet you do not hate them. We see your heart, Jack. You are angry at those who betrayed you, but you still love your species. You still believe they are worth protecting." Jack thought about it carefully. He thought about Park and about corruption and betrayal, about the politicians who had condemned him. He thought about the soldiers who had followed him into battle, about the civilians on Arcturus, and in all the good people who still fought for what was right. "Yes," he said finally, "I still believe. Humanity has monsters, but we also have heroes. We have people who sacrifice everything for strangers. We have love and courage and hope. That's worth protecting." "Then we will not replace your humanity. We will enhance it." The light surrounded Jack. He felt information flowing into his mind like a river, tactics and strategies from 1,000,000 wars across 1,000,000,000 years, engineering secrets that humans wouldn't discover for centuries, understanding of physics and biology and technology that expanded his consciousness in ways he couldn't describe. But it wasn't just knowledge. His body changed too, not obviously, not dramatically. His reflexes sharpened, his senses heightened. His mind could process information 10 times faster than before. He was still human, still Jack, but he was human running at full potential, every limitation stripped away. When it was over, he found himself not alone. A presence remained in his mind, gentle and patient. "I am Echo," the presence said, a fragment of precursor consciousness assigned to guide you. I will help you understand your new abilities. I will offer counsel when you seek it, but I will not control you. The choices remain yours." Jack opened his eyes. He was back in the chamber beneath Tartarus 9, stood before him, eyes wide with wonder. "How long was I gone?" Jack asked. His voice sounded the same, but everything felt different. "3 days," the old scientist replied. "I waited, I hoped. Jack, your eyes." Jack found a piece of reflective metal and looked at himself. His eyes had changed slightly. They held flecks of gold now, glowing faintly in the darkness, the mark of the precursors. "What happened in there?" asked. "I was tested," Jack replied, "and I was given a gift." He looked at his hands, flexing his fingers. He could feel the potential thrumming through his body. "We have work to do, but first I need to know what's happening outside this prison." They returned to the upper levels, had been busy while Jack was gone. "I've intercepted Coalition communications," the young hacker reported excitedly. "Admiral Park is planning something big. He's moving fleets away from the outer colonies, concentrating them near Earth. And Lieutenant—" "What about her?" Jack demanded. "She escaped. She's been hiding in the outer systems, gathering evidence. She's been trying to find a way to prove your innocence. And she's not alone. Captain has been helping her. They never believed you were guilty." Jack felt warmth spread through his chest. He had not been abandoned by everyone. "You have loyal friends," Echo observed in his mind. "That is rare and valuable." "Send them a message," Jack told. "Encrypted, untraceable. Tell them Jack is alive. Tell them to keep gathering evidence. Tell them—" he paused, thinking. "Tell them to be ready. The time is coming." No appeared at his side, her face curious. "What are you planning, Admiral?" Jack looked at her. He thought about all the prisoners who had gathered around him. Broken people, abandoned people, people who deserved better than to rot in this frozen hell. "I'm planning to leave this place," Jack said, "and I'm taking everyone who wants to come with me. The Coalition thinks they buried us here forever. They're about to learn how wrong they were." An alarm began to wail through the prison. Warden Iam's voice crackled over the speakers. "Jack, I know what you've been doing in the tunnels. Security teams are coming for you. Surrender now or face termination." Jack smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Everyone stay behind me," he said calmly. The security teams came. 20 guards in heavy armor, carrying pulse rifles and shock weapons. They expected to find a tired old man and a handful of frightened prisoners. They found something else entirely. Jack moved through them like water through sand. His enhanced reflexes made their weapons useless. His precursor knowledge showed him exactly where to strike. In 30 seconds, all 20 guards were unconscious on the floor, alive but defeated. Warden Iam watched through the security cameras, his face pale with fear. "What are you?" he whispered. Jack looked directly into the camera, his golden-flecked eyes glowing in the dim light. "I'm the man you should never have crossed," he replied. "And I'm just getting started." Tartarus 9 fell in a single night. Jack led his followers through the prison like a storm, taking control of section after section. The gangs who had terrorized the weak were given a choice: join the new order or face justice. Most chose wisely. Those who didn't regretted it. Warden Iam barricaded himself in the control center with his remaining guards. He screamed threats over the speakers, promising reinforcements from the Coalition, promising death to all who him. Nobody listened anymore. Jack walked alone to the control center doors. They were thick metal, designed to withstand riots and explosions. He placed his hand against them and felt the electronic systems through his precursor-enhanced senses. The locks clicked open. The doors swung wide. The warden fired his pistol with shaking hands. Jack caught the energy bolt with reflexes that shouldn't have been possible, letting it dissipate harmlessly against his palm. The precursor enhancements had done more than improve his body. They had changed what his body could do. I gave you every chance, Jack said quietly. You chose to be cruel. You chose to be a monster. Now you'll face the same justice, your prisoners. I'm spent his remaining days in the same cells where he had tortured so many others. The prisoners voted on his sentence. It was not kind. With the prison secured, Jack gathered everyone in the main hall. Nearly 2,000 prisoners stood before him, criminals and victims alike. They watched him with a mixture of hope and fear. The coalition abandoned you, Jack said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. They threw you away like garbage. Some of you deserved punishment. Some of you were innocent, but none of you deserved to die forgotten on this frozen rock. He paused, looking across the crowd. I'm leaving this place. I'm going to build something new, something better. If you want to come with me, I'll give you a purpose. I'll give you a chance to matter again. But I warn you, what we're doing will be dangerous. Many of us won't survive. Make your choice. He waited, the silence stretched. No stepped forward first. I'm with you, Admiral. My life ended the day they put me here. You're giving me a new one. Joined her. I've waited 20 years for someone who could use what I know. I'm not waiting anymore. Stepped up nervously. Someone needs to keep the computers running. Might as well be me. One by one, prisoners joined. When it was done, over 1,600 had volunteered. The rest, mostly those too old or sick to fight, would remain behind with supplies and communication equipment. Jack's first challenge was transportation. Tartarus 9 had supply ships that arrived every few months. The next one was 2 weeks away. Jack used that time to prepare. Led teams into the precursor ruins, salvaging technology that humanity had never imagined. Power cells that never ran out. Materials stronger than steel but light as cloth. Weapons that could cut through coalition armor like paper. You must be careful, Echo warned in Jack's mind. The precursors fell because they became too dependent on their technology. Humanity's greatest strength is not in machines. It is in spirit. I know, Jack replied silently. We're not replacing ourselves. We're giving ourselves better tools. When the supply ship arrived, its crew never had a chance. Had hacked the approach codes, making everything seem normal. The ship docked. The doors opened. Jack's people swarmed aboard before anyone could raise an alarm. The Salvation, as they renamed the captured vessel, became the first ship of Jack's ghost fleet. Over the following months, the fleet grew. Jack contacted Song, a smuggler queen who controlled trade routes through the outer systems. Years ago, during the border wars, Jack had saved her family from a raiding party. She had never forgotten. I always knew the coalition would betray you eventually, Song told him over an encrypted channel. Her face was weathered but her eyes were sharp as knives. They can't stand people who are actually good at their jobs. What do you need? Ships, Jack replied. Supplies, information, and pilots who aren't afraid of the coalition. I can give you all of that, but it'll cost you. Name your price. Song smiled. When you win, and I believe you will, I want a seat at the table. The outer colonies have been ignored too long. We want a voice. Done, Jack agreed without hesitation. Ships began appearing from nowhere. Old freighters modified for combat. Mining vessels equipped with weapons. Scout ships that could outrun anything the coalition had. Song's network supplied them all. Commander O arrived with 3 actual warships. He had been a loyal coalition officer until Admiral Park ordered him to bombard a colony of mining families who had protested working conditions. O had refused. His crew had against the bombardment order. Now they were all criminals like Jack. The coalition I swore to serve doesn't exist anymore, O said when he met Jack. Park and his allies have corrupted everything. Half the officer corps is terrified. The other half is looking for someone to follow, someone who remembers what we're supposed to stand for. Are you that someone? Jack asked. O shook his head. No, Admiral, I'm not, but you are. Arrived with evidence. She had spent months in hiding, gathering proof of the conspiracy that had destroyed Jack. communications between Park and discussing how to remove Jack from power, financial records showing massive bribes to witnesses, orders to fabricate evidence, everything needed to prove Jack's innocence. "It's not enough," she told Jack sadly when they finally met face to face. Her time in hiding had changed her. She was harder now, more cautious, but her eyes still held the same fierce loyalty. "I can prove you're innocent, but I can't get anyone to listen. Park controls the media, controls the information networks. Anyone who speaks against them disappears." "Then we'll make them listen," Jack replied. "Keep gathering evidence. When the time comes, everyone will hear the truth." Captain remained inside the Coalition Navy, feeding intelligence to Jack's network. He was playing a dangerous game, pretending to be loyal while secretly undermining Park's plans. "They're planning something terrible," reported in a coded message. "Park wants a war with the... He's been provoking them, raiding their territory, killing their scouts. He thinks a big war will let him consolidate power. He doesn't care how many people die." Jack felt cold fury building in his chest. They were dangerous enough without provocation. A full-scale war could cost millions of human lives, and Park was willing to sacrifice all of them just to strengthen his own position. "This is why we tested you," Echo observed. "Power in the wrong hands destroys everything. Power in the right hands can save worlds." The Ghost Fleet continued to grow. 37 ships, 52 ships, 61 ships. Most were small, poorly armed, crewed by criminals and outcasts, but precursor upgrades made them deadly. Their weapons could punch through Coalition shields. Their engines could outrun Coalition pursuit. Their sensors could detect Coalition ships from impossible distances. And they had something the Coalition didn't have. They had purpose. They believed in their cause. Every member of the Ghost Fleet had been wronged by the corrupt system that Park represented. They fought not for money or power, but for justice. Jack stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Prometheus. Once it had been a civilian transport. Now, enhanced with precursor technology and armed with weapons that made Coalition admirals nervous, it was the most dangerous ship in human space. Approached him with an urgent report. "Admiral, they are massing for a major attack. They're heading for Arcturus colony." Jack's blood went cold. Arcturus, the colony he had saved, 2 million people who were alive because he had fought for them. "Where is Park's fleet?" he demanded. "Out of position. They were chasing rumors of your location on the other side of the sector. They can't reach Arcturus in time." Jack understood immediately. Park had provoked the... Park had moved his fleet to hunt for Jack instead of protecting civilians, and now 2 million people would pay for his arrogance. "Set course for Arcturus," Jack ordered. "Maximum speed, all ships." Admiral O warned, "They have over 200 ships. We have 61. "I know the odds." Jack's eyes, flecked with precursor gold, burned with determination. "I beat those odds once before. I'll beat them again. Those people trusted the Coalition to protect them. The Coalition failed. We won't." The Ghost Fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing toward the biggest battle of Jack's life. They arrived at Arcturus colony with the fury of a hungry swarm. 237 ships darkened the sky, their organic hulls pulsing with violent intent. The colony's defense stations opened fire, but they were designed to repel pirates, not a full invasion fleet. Within an hour, half of them were burning wreckage. On the surface, 2 million people huddled in shelters and prayed for salvation that seemed impossible. The Coalition Navy was too far away. No help was coming. They were going to die. Then the Ghost Fleet arrived. 61 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They were small and strange-looking, nothing like proper military vessels, but they hit the flank like a hammer. "All ships, this is Jack." His voice broadcast across every frequency, reaching the colony below, the above, and the scattered Coalition vessels that had been preparing to die. "Form on my position. Target their queen nodes. Don't let them reorganize." The coalition captains hesitated. Jack was a traitor. He was an escaped prisoner. Every order they had received said to arrest him on sight. But Jack had also saved their lives at the first battle of Arcturus. He was also the greatest tactical mind humanity had ever produced, and he was also the only person standing between the and 2 million civilians. Half the coalition ships moved to join his formation. The other half waited, uncertain. "This is commander of the Defender," a woman's voice crackled over the communication system. "I don't know what's true anymore, but I know you're here fighting while our fleet admiral is chasing shadows. We're with you." More ships fell in line. Jack's combined force now numbered nearly 90 vessels against over 200. "It's still not enough," No said grimly from her station. "It's going to be," Jack replied. His enhanced mind was already processing the battle, seeing patterns that normal humans couldn't perceive. "Begin jamming their swarm communication frequencies. Are the special weapons ready?" "Ready, Admiral." "Then let's remind the why they should fear humanity." The battle was chaos and fire and death. Jack moved his ships like chess pieces, exploiting weaknesses in the formation that only he could see. His precursor-enhanced weapons tore through ships with terrible efficiency. His crews fought with desperate courage, knowing that failure meant extinction for everyone below. No led boarding parties onto Hive ships, hunting for the queen nodes that coordinated swarm behavior. She fought through nightmare corridors filled with insect warriors, her marines dying around her, until she found what she was looking for. When she destroyed the queen node, 100 ships suddenly lost coordination, crashing into each other or drifting helplessly. 3 queen nodes down, she reported, her voice exhausted. 2 more to go. "Get to extraction," Jack ordered. "I'll handle the rest." The Prometheus dove into the heart of the formation. Enemy fire hammered its shields, but the precursor technology held. Jack piloted his ship with supernatural precision, weaving through the swarm while his weapons struck true again and again. "You are pushing yourself too hard," Echo warned. "Your body has limits, even enhanced." "The people below don't have limits they can afford," Jack replied silently. "They just have me." He found the 4th queen node and destroyed it with a concentrated burst of precursor energy. The fleet shuddered as more ships lost coordination. The swarm mind was fragmenting. Then the 5th and final queen node turned to flee. It was the largest ship Jack had ever seen, a monster of chitin and hatred. If it escaped, it would rebuild the swarm. It would return for revenge. Jack pushed the Prometheus forward, every system straining. The queen ship was faster, pulling away steadily. "I can't catch it," he admitted. A new voice crackled over the communication system. "Maybe you can't, Admiral, but I can." The Resolute dropped out of faster-than-light speed directly in the queen ship's path. Captain had brought his destroyer through impossible navigation to cut off the retreat. Jack said, relief flooding his voice, "I thought you were undercover." "I was, then I heard you needed help." The Resolute opened fire, all weapons blazing. "Let's finish this together, Admiral." The queen ship fought back with desperate fury, but it was trapped between the Prometheus and the Resolute. Jack coordinated the attack with their ships moving in perfect synchronization like they had trained together for years, which they had. The queen node died in an explosion that lit up the void. The remaining ships, leaderless and confused, scattered in all directions. Some fled into deep space. Others crashed into each other. A few tried to continue fighting and were quickly destroyed. It was over. Arcturus colony was saved again. On the surface, 2 million people emerged from their shelters and looked up at a sky filled with debris. They had survived. Somehow, impossibly, they had survived. Admiral, Commander's voice was quiet with awe. "What you did today, I don't have words." "Save them for the dead," Jack replied tiredly. "We lost good people." 14 ships destroyed, over 3,000 sailors dead. The cost was high, but the alternative had been extinction. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Jack broadcasts evidence to every corner of human space. The conspiracy was exposed for all to see. Park's communications with director, the fabricated evidence, the bribed witnesses, the innocent man condemned to die so that ambitious men could seize power. Coalition worlds erupted in protests. Admirals demanded answers. The council was forced to hold emergency sessions as their carefully constructed lies collapsed. Jack brought his fleet to Earth, not to conquer, not to destroy, to deliver justice. Park tried to rally loyal forces against him, but there were no loyal forces left. Captain led a mutiny aboard Park's flagship, delivering the vessel and its crew to Jack without a single shot fired. "The Navy serves humanity," declared. "Not corrupt politicians, not ambitious traitors, humanity." Jack walked into the Coalition Council chambers with only and no at his side. He wore no armor. He carried no weapons. He was simply a man seeking answers from those who had wronged him. Park stood behind the council table, his face pale, his arrogance finally shattered. Director had already fled, captured trying to escape on a private shuttle. "Jack," Park said, his voice shaking, "you have to understand, I never meant for it to go this far. I just wanted advancement. I just wanted recognition. You were always in my way, always getting the glory, always." "Shut up." Jack's voice was quiet, but it silenced the entire chamber. "I don't care about glory. I never did. I cared about protecting people. I cared about duty. I cared about honor. You had all of those things within your reach, and you threw them away for power. What are you going to do to me?" Jack studied the man who had destroyed his life. He thought about all the ways he could take revenge. He could kill Park where he stood. He could humiliate him. He could make him suffer the way Jack had suffered. But revenge wasn't justice, and Jack had never been about revenge. "I'm going to let the courts decide your fate," Jack said. "Real courts, fair courts. The same justice you me will be given to you. That's more than you deserve, but it's what civilized people do." Park collapsed into a chair, weeping. He had expected death. Mercy was somehow worse. The Coalition Council, what remained of it, offered Jack everything. Supreme Commander of all military forces, a seat on the council itself, unlimited authority to reshape human government as he saw fit. Jack refused. "I didn't come back for power," he told them. "I came back because humanity deserves better than what you gave them. You want to make things right. Promote captain to fleet admiral. Appoint as director of intelligence. Put honest people in charge and let them clean up the mess you made." "What about you?" the council chairman asked. "What do you want?" Jack thought for a moment. "I want to protect humanity, not from a throne, not from a title, just as a man who sees what needs to be done and does it." 1 year later, Jack stood on a memorial platform overlooking Arcturus colony. Behind him, statues honored those who had died defending the colony in both battles, had returned to science, leading a research institute that studied precursor technology for peaceful purposes. No commanded the colonial marines, turning outcasts and criminals into the finest fighting force humanity had ever known. Ran coalition cybersecurity, protecting humanity's networks from threats both human and alien. Song's shipping company was now legitimate mostly, and the outer colonies finally had representation in government. Commander O trained the next generation of naval officers, teaching them that honor mattered more than orders. Echo spoke in Jack's mind, gentle as always. "There are greater threats beyond the stars, dangers that destroyed even the precursors. Humanity must be ready." "Then we'll get ready," Jack replied. "We'll be stronger than you were, we'll be better. That is what we hoped for. That is why we chose to help you." Joined Jack on the platform, standing beside him as she had for so many years. "The council is asking about the precursor ruins on Tartarus 9. They want to send research teams. Tell them to be careful. The technology there is powerful. In the wrong hands, it could destroy us. In the right hands, Jack smiled, the first genuine smile he had allowed himself in a long time. In the right hands, it could save us. Looked up at the stars filling the night sky. Somewhere out there, ancient dangers waited. Somewhere out there, new challenges were forming. Humanity's story was just beginning. "Ready for another impossible mission?" she asked. Jack, the man who had been betrayed and abandoned and left to die on a frozen moon, looked at the stars with golden-flecked eyes full of hope. "Always," he said. And he meant it.